Okay, I'd like to call to order the August 1st meeting of the Village of Cold Spring Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Aaron Wolf, I'm the chair of the board. We also have Donald McDonald and John Martin, and absent tonight we have Grace Lowe and Eric Worth. We are all unpaid volunteers. We're appointed by the Village Board of Trustees, and we all live in the Village of Cold Spring. Michael Mell is our videographer, and you can find his work on YouTube shortly after the meetings on the Village of Cold Spring channel. The ZBA has two primary roles. The one we do most often is we grant or deny variances to the zoning code when requested by property owners in order to protect the interests of the village and neighborhoods, and to allow property owners to use their property where the zoning code may not quite apply correctly or reasonably. The other thing we do is to interpret the village code if there's a difference of opinion between the inspector and the building department with the property. So tonight we've got one thing on the agenda, a public hearing for 13 Sloan Street. We have perhaps a review of minutes, if not sure that we have the right mix of people here to approve minutes from last week, or from our last meeting. So if everybody's ready, I'd like to open the public hearing for 13 Stone Street. This is for front and side yard variances and a lot coverage area variance for additions of a porch and expanding the garage. So come on up. Let's start with handing in those things.
It's certified,
Yes,
yes.
thank you. And
These are
then,
the returns we got.
and then we also need the affidavit of the
Yes.
sign.
I have the list of them. Oh, you have it too.
We've got it. Some of them actually answer their mail. I did not get by to see the sign. Did anybody else?
Yeah, I saw there are two.
Okay, excellent.
Also,
So that's gonna be fun. All right, so the next thing to do is to present this to us and to the public as if we don't know that much about it, even though we already do. So come on up and make the presentation and state your name for the camera and for Michael's notes, please, as you come.
I am Heather Kahn of Studio Bob. Myself and Brian Corrigan were the architects for this project. The proposed project is a front porch addition as well as an enlargement of a garage with a sunroom above at the rear of the property. We're here to request two front yard setback variances for the front porch. Being that it's a corner lot, there's a front yard setback requirement for both sides. Those setbacks, we would have 7'2" and 6'3" and change versus the required 25 feet. And then for the garage, we would need a front yard setback. We would encroach on that about 4 feet if there's 21'9" to that property line. And then in the rear, or I should say the side yard, instead of the required, we would be down to 6'9¼ but would not be going past the existing building on that side. On either the south side or the north side, we would be encroaching a little bit further on east side. But that is an unenclosed, it's just a covered porch. And then area variance request, we would be at 31.5% coverage as opposed to the 30 permitted.
How do you get the dimension from Railroad Avenue property line to the face of the garage?
This dimension,
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's not on mine. Oh, I see.
I had sent a revised one
Oh,
where we
yeah,
had
the-
added a couple, and I actually have an extra copy, if that's helpful.
Somebody gave me one. Is this me? Is that you?
Yeah, is that it? But, I don't know if that's the-
No, that isn't it. Okay. Oh, we left. Oh, cool.
Just to try to make it a little
Yeah,
clearer.
very nice.
I think we'll keep this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you want a copy of this as well that went with it? It just had some square footage and spelled out the variances.
Sorry, I should have forwarded this, I didn't realize if there was any other difference.
Well, that's good. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out with the square footage as well. Okay.
The only little hiccup on your copy there is the red hatch printed as yellow this morning, so in the letter it references a red hatch for the front porch, and you have to
Oh,
jump to the assumption that the red is yellow.
happens to me all the time.
So this,
There's another copy.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe they have a permit for interior work. That's what it is.
Exterior work and windows and air conditioning. I have permits for all that.
Yeah, and so the front porch is going to be an actual covered porch in the front?
Yes.
And that's the depth of it, 7 feet 8?
Yes, basically, the front door is on the most east wall, so we've come out 3 feet. We're trying not to bring it out too far, but just to provide enough coverage at that front door is the way that dimension was set.
I have photographs of the original house if you
Yeah.
want to see.
We've got
Oh, there's
these
this one right here.
Okay.
And they cranked the square footage of the front porch because it's covered into their lot coverage numbers.
Yes, if you do not include it, we are under the 30, but once you include that front porch, it pushes us over.
Yeah, we looked a little bit at, what would it be, what's 1.5%? Could we shrink, would it be possible to shrink that out of the project and still get what you want? But we figured it out, it's like 87 some odd square feet, and if you take it out of the 21-foot dimension, that's 4 feet, which is too much, you know.
Right, I mean,
brick building. So
we
you-
are
it's a
trying
good
to
reason why you're-
limit,
Right.
you know, the 2-car garage is kind of the bare minimum for a 2-car garage with
Agreed.
a current
Yeah.
car. And the front porch, we're really only pushing that extra 3 feet to provide
About
the
3 foot,
coverage.
right.
So it would be hard to
Yep.
sort
Yeah.
of.
We just wanted to go through it just to kind of verify for ourselves. The 2-car garage, you know, you're not gonna get it much less than that with the dimensions they have. It's certainly not a spacious 2-car garage as some are today, so. You know, it's,
On the south side of the porch, that's not right up against the retaining wall, is it?
No.
There's yard there
No, it's
between the porch
setback.
and.
Is it setback?
Yeah, we are, so this south side is quite a distance from the retaining wall. The retaining wall's out here.
So, yeah. I'm
Or
looking
this
at-
side.
I'm looking at the side view of the porch.
Yeah,
Take a look. Is,
Yeah, I see that. I'm looking for the.
I think the
front
question
yard.
is if the garages come out to the retaining wall, if there's driveway in front of the garages, correct? That's the question?
No, I'm asking about the porch. The side view of the porch right there, and how far away that is from the retaining wall.
From this retaining wall, it's about 6'5".
Okay, and that's gonna be, is that slightly above ground level, that porch there?
It's gonna be one step up, and the grade does pitch slightly from, but that is the existing,
Okay.
the existing grade.
Yeah, this, yeah, there's it right there.
it's gonna be a stone porch or like impervious, or is it gonna be wood or?
The porch itself, I believe we're talking about doing like a bluestone or some kind of impervious finish. I mean, it does have a roof over top of it.
For the, for the landing itself, I would presume we'll probably do concrete with bluestone or something of that nature.
So currently it's soil, and so it absorbs the water, right? So would you plan on having gutters along that porch edge?
Some,
Yes.
Yes,
We
because-
wouldn't just be shedding water, we'll be collecting it and
Get a look at.
Were you here for
Get the photo.
were you here for the meeting last, when we looked at this the first time? Okay. So you should take
I know this
take
as
extra
well.
time to,
Well, I don't-
yeah, take extra time to review that.
Yeah, I know. So you show the neighbor's side yard, is there a reason for that? I mean,
That was for the historic review board, and they
Okay.
wanted to see the neighboring houses.
okay. Will there be an exit way to the back again from the sunroom? So it's gonna be moved
Yes.
out, is that what's been done?
so what happens is, this is the existing, this dotted line, is
Yeah.
that existing masonry
Right.
stair. There will be a new wood stair
Yeah, okay.
alongside, but it won't come out any farther than the proposed garage.
Right.
It'll be much less heavy as well.
And I think you said last time that the top of the stairs is not gonna be covered.
It is not, and it will be a deck construction, so it will just be pervious, and there will be pervious ground underneath it as well.
So it won't be a stone staircase?
The rear one will not.
So for entrance and exiting from the driveway, it'll be basically 2 spaces wide to get in and out?
Yes, that's
Stays
what
the
it is
same.
existing, it's the existing curb cut, we're not changing the driveway, we basically just extended the garage the width of the existing driveway.
In the current driveway, you have enough space for one car and another small car. Used to be that you could fit 2 cars in there, but as my parents got older, I built that staircase, made it wider, easier to handle. And now I'd like to move it back, okay, and gain that little bit of space because parking is problematic. So I can fit 2 cars in the driveway and park 2 cars in the garage.
Which one are you looking for? Conformance sheet?
Can I see that thing? That letter? Is this the same one?
That's the same, yeah. Is that what you want?
Does this qualify for small lot exception? I guess not,
Well,
because,
I looked at that, but I don't think it does because it's on the corner.
yeah, okay, so it's gonna be, I'm just trying to figure out how the wording of the variances would be.
How do the corner lot,
Well, the narrow lot, exception only talks about 2 side yards that are on opposite
which is
borders.
not what we have here, we have 2 front
Yeah.
yards.
So we have 2 front yards. I can look at it again, because I looked at that and how that would save us a variance or 2.
Because you identify a front yard, a front line, and you identify the rear, and everything else are sides, so that, all these are sides, so the front is 50. Can't remember what the small one is.
It's 60,
All right, so it's less.
yeah.
But the mean width isn't less.
Right, so,
And that's
I
what
mean, there's
matters.
a couple of problems with that exception on this lot. One is that it's got this dog leg,
Yeah.
and the other one is that it has 2 front yards.
Yeah, the mean width, because it does, we do define it that way, in terms of width, so you'd have to use the mean, so you'd have to think this and this ain't gonna be over. Well, I don't know, you might, I don't know, to be safe, we should just go with the 10 feet.
What is it, 80 and 50? So that's.
80 and 50, but then you've gotta do the,
With 134.
That's right. But I don't think we could use it with a corner lot.
Yeah, right.
Because it's got, it only has 1 side yard.
So,
That's right, well, just, yeah, because it won't fit within the description of the provision.
seems to me you've got 17 feet, 9 1/4 inch from the required 25 front yard variance. 3 foot 2 1/4 from the required 10 feet side yard, and 3 foot 2 3/4 from the required 25 feet front yard. And
I would probably point that out when we write out
this, the porch also has a front yard issue.
Yeah, the porch has two front yards.
Yeah, you got 2 fronts, so you got a front, you got the front here on the porch. That's an interesting refinement. I don't know
So you already measured it right there.
if you do it, if you run a variance one way, you cover it with one, so I think it's okay. I don't think you have to go beat it to death. So, let's do the front.
So
In
you
other
said,
words-
go ahead.
Yeah.
You're gonna work with front yard variances on the
Front,
south
for
and
the-
east sides,
for the-
right?
Well, I did it for the garage, but I don't know that you would, in other words, this guy, the front porch gets it twice. It gets it from the front and from the front.
From the south and east, yeah.
And so if you give it a variance for the front that way, I mean, do you really have to give the variance from the front the other way?
I think we should.
Yeah.
All right, so then you've got,
But we'll point out that we're not relying
25,
on the
24 foot
narrow lot
Right.
provision because there are not 2 parallel side
6 foot,
yards.
2.
It's a 2 front
Yeah.
yard, 1.
Donald, we have the conformance chart. To your recalculated. So we've got the two front yard, we've got the two front yard variances for the porch. Right there.
Yeah, but what's the, I'm just confused about what these numbers are really.
Well, this is the one that you calculated right here, the 7. Just drawing
No.
you're drawing it here. So this is the 7. They got a 7, 2 3/4.
No, 17 feet, because he's going 25, right?
So,
In other words, the
Right, so
wording of a
therefore-
variance would be.
It should be for the space we need, right? So it should be the 25 minus the 7.
Exactly, so you're asking for for that front yard, you're asking for a variance of 17 feet, 9 1/4 inch from the required 25.
Right.
And for the side, you're asking for 3 foot 2 1/4 from the required 10. And for the other side, you're asking 3 foot 2 3/4 from the required 25.
And then this
Oh.
side,
And then that one there would be what, 6 foot 2 1/4, so
From 25.
from 25, so that's 10, 9 3/4, and that's 18. So on this one, you're doing 18 foot 9 3/4 inch from required 25. I think that's how you, that's how we
I would
word
do
it.
it.
You would
Yeah.
word it, you would express them. I just was getting those ready to, for, if we were gonna talk about voting on resolution.
And we can reference it to, like the east front property line or the south front property
street.
line.
Yeah, so you've got, here's north, south, west, east.
As far as the two front
Yeah.
yards are concerned.
Yep.
And in the buildings, just out of curiosity, when we're looking at these variances, the other buildings come pretty close to the sidewalk as well, right?
They do. There are some very narrow very short front lawns.
So,
Right.
just talking about front yards and how it situates with the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah, the wording of the resolution should be that, the 17 feet from the required 25 and the 18 from the required 25. In perspective, the front of the house is 10 feet 9 3/4 inches from the property line. So,
Right. It sounds like it's a big change, but it's not.
Right, it's, we can put that in perspective.
Many of the houses are right on this.
I was gonna say, as you move down Stone Street, closer to Main Street, I mean, those next couple buildings,
Right.
they have no, maybe 2 or 3
Right.
feet.
Including the building right across the street from you.
Right.
And then you've got a lot coverage of 1.5% from required, the maximum 30%. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the legality of the gist of it. Right.
So, is this wording the way you want to see it? No? Or should we have it corrected so that somebody looks at it?
Well,
Be interested.
no, I think the resolution will
Work.
translate into what they're all doing
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's okay.
All right.
And we pointed out that we don't need to, the area of the existing lot, less than 7,500 square feet is a non-issue, because the lot's there.
Right.
You own the lot. It was there before the zoning was enacted, so it's perfectly legal. You don't have to ask for permission for that.
Do you know what construction was?
Or where the house is, or anything to do with it. It's just,
My father built it and they moved in 46.
Yeah.
For the 60s.
Yeah, so, those were the good old days when you could just,
Yeah. It was a livery stable before. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I still dig up horseshoes every now and again.
Do we have any other questions for the applicants?
I don't see any, I mean, as long as like the back porch, you're gonna have guttering all the way around. I mean, I'm sure it's like
Yeah, I'm
currently
gonna-
exists.
Certainly have to make an effort to do the right thing and the right job, and
I mean, that's just for environmental purposes.
absolutely, I get it.
So we talked about that a little bit last week and came to the conclusion that although we dipped our toes into that with the house down the road on Railroad,
Mhm.
it's 5,
Right.
that may have been stretching our area of,
Well, not if you're allowing a denser buildup of the area. You were supposed to consider environmental.
well, I did say I was gonna talk to the building inspector, and I have not, to find out if that was something that we should address. Not necessarily for this project, but for the project. Donald said last week he didn't think that we would need it, or at the last meeting, and that it would be handled by building code. But I wanna look into that for future purposes.
Because we're supposed to address the environmental impacts as part of the criteria.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was a good idea to talk to the building inspector. Maybe also the village attorney.
But you're also expected to look at it.
But I've never seen it, the zoning board of appeals, deal with stormwater. Right, not to say that we ultimately shouldn't, but
Well, I
I've
don't know,
never
we
seen
just
it.
haven't looked up a case and see if
Never
that's
seen it,
correct.
right.
Yeah, I can check that out.
But I think that's the reason we have a building inspector, because I know the building code says that you can't convey water from your property into your neighbor's property, so the building code would be where you would, be that requirement would be taken care of.
But part of the final criteria requires you to examine it to make sure that
Right.
it wouldn't interfere
Right.
with the environmental, present environmental difficulties. One of it being runoff and erosion.
Good point.
But I'll look it up. The bottom line is we are supposed to address it. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't know if we're supposed to do that outside of the type 1 or type 2.
well, I think it's a consideration that is supposed to be made when granting variances, so it is connected to variances. It's a consideration. And the criteria specified. And not only that, it's in the form here, the application.
Yeah, one of the criteria does say, does it impact negatively on the environmental conditions of the neighborhood? So environmental conditions, that you can put a lot of different things in environmental conditions. One of them could be stormwater, so.
We do have enough area to deal with stormwater on site, and we do intend to do that.
Yeah, I see you have the gutters on the back sunroof, sun deck now.
The reason that we talked about it so much for the 5 Railroad
It's because it's a steep location.
is because that was such a small lot.
That's the bottom of the hill, right?
Yeah, it's bottom of the hill, but it's mostly an impervious backyard, lots of stone.
All right, well, why don't we, if there's no more questions and you don't have anything else to present to us, we can,
Check, make sure I'm away from the public space.
yeah, anybody hiding behind the vestibule there?
I
Well,
didn't see anybody.
Okay. Donald, do you have anything that's in, I'm good. All right, would one of you make a motion to close the public?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we can go through our criteria. You ready to get started on that? Sure. All right. So now we have 5 criteria for an area variance like this, and none of them is binding. but we take them all and balance them out, and then we each vote based on our own view of the balance. Usually we're not always.
Are we gonna go through and just look at the collective?
I think we should look at all the variances together, so we only go through the 5 one time, unless anybody disagrees with me. I just go together. This is kind of a fairly standard set of variances. Okay, so the benefit sought by the applicant, you can have a seat if you want, relax. It's gonna take 15 or 20 minutes.
My legs were hurting.
The benefit sought by the applicant can or cannot be achieved by any other feasible means. So if the benefit that's sought is a 2-car garage, then
The sunroom attached to the house. Right.
and an expanded sunroom.
Expanded sunroom above.
But they could expand the sunroom without expanding far enough to have a 2-car garage.
I would say it's a limited size lot. Parking is pretty limited, it just makes it, the benefit to me can't be achieved by any other means. I mean,
Well, they're expanding as much as they can within the area of the lot, which is
limited.
not subject to setback requirements. So they're maximizing the area they do have to work with to minimize the variances they are asking for. So I would say that they have, what was the wording again,
Can or cannot be achieved by any other feasible
I don't
means.
see how they can achieve it by other means. Without getting more of it and requiring more variances.
Yeah, we did look at a way to,
Or more extreme variances.
we did look at a way to whether the area, the lot coverage variance could possibly be eliminated. And you determined that would shrink the garage below an acceptable size for a 2-car garage.
It wasn't even close. It would shrink it by 4 feet in width, and you'd have a 1-car garage, basically, 1.5-car garage. You would never have a 2-car garage. So you could debate about whether, it's reasonable to ask for a 2-car garage, but you can't shrink the 1.5% of the lot area out of the proposal without knocking out the legs for why it's being asked for.
I guess one concern, I generally agree, one concern I have about the way that we're using the number of cars that need to fit in a garage as the benefit that we have to achieve by the variance, and what that's gonna do to somebody else who wants to put in a 2-car garage. Does this mean that everybody will now get small variances for 2-car garages? There weren't that many lots where you could put a 2-car garage,
Right.
but there might be some. I mean, if this were, say, a game room or something, we would say, well, you can have a smaller game room and not need that 1.25% lot coverage.
I mean, over the years, I know that I've been involved with debates about the appropriateness of writing variances to allow 2-car garages as opposed to 1-car garage. And, it's hard to, I was looking around the neighborhood, right across the street over there is a 2-car garage right in your face. It's hard to, there are 2-car garages in the village, it's hard to say,
It's hard to
necessarily unreasonable to request it, especially on on a lot this size, you know, it's a bigger than normal lot.
I think that, the number and size of the variances are kind of made less, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But the front door of the garage is right in the middle of the main part of the lot. It's pretty far back and it's pretty well hidden from railroad, certainly from stone.
I mean, it's certainly gonna look better than there's one over here. I took a picture of it.
Mhm.
I can't, you know,
Oh, right.
Right on the
Yeah.
street.
that's right across the stump. I mean, you know, there it is.
This one's set back, recessed.
Yeah, this one's,
You know, I would love a bigger garage. I have several cars. All I'm looking for really is to be able to put my old cars in there and, you know, maybe a lawnmower. That's really all you can fit in there. And what I have now, that's called a garage down there, if you get a car in there, you can't open the doors. So,
All right, so let's move on to point 2. The proposed variances will or will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, will or will not be created by the granting of the area variance.
I say it will not be.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Mostly because they've put it in an area where it exists already, and it's also pretty much out of the line of sight in most of the homes. It's set back more into the backyard of the house.
Right.
Anyway, you know, we're not only talking about the garage, we're also talking about the front porch. So we're doing at least
Right.
this all together, correct?
I think the front porch is,
A gimme?
yeah, it's pretty much in character with the.
It's in character, I think, with all the homes in the neighborhood. You know, many of the homes.
And I'm just gonna add here that, no members of the public or neighbors can speak. The required variances requested are or are not substantial.
They are substantial, but they are consistent with the setbacks of other neighboring properties.
well, they're numerically substantial, but when compared to, as John says, the
Neighboring properties.
neighboring properties, they're in character,
I would add that.
generally in character.
I would add that the variances are not really substantial when you look at the grandfathered building, which is already, you know, mostly outside of
That's a
the.
good point.
Grandfather placement of, you know,
here comes the neighbor.
front porch will actually help the street presence of the project. Columns can be nice. Standing seam, huh?
Excuse me?
Standing seam, huh?
Yes.
Proposed variance will or will not have will or will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I would say not.
I would say not, but again, on the environmental end of things, you know, right? It's
Well, we could say, you
the
know,
way to control water in this place.
assuming stormwater is dealt with per building code, the project will not have any detrimental effect on the environmental conditions of the neighborhood.
Okay. last one, the alleged difficulty necessitating the variance was or was not self-created. I will say was, there's pretty much nothing about it that was not self-created.
Well, it was your parents' house, right? So, you didn't pick it. His parents picked it.
He could sell it. So you're saying yes, it was not self-created? Because it was an inherited house?
I think it was self-created. I mean, you're making changes to a house
Oh.
that have to
Okay.
fit within the code presently.
All right, so that's it, and we figured out the variances that we need to grant here, and I'll add those to this resolution later.
All right.
Should it pass, we don't have to take care of that now.
Do you think at any point in the resolution, we make specific reference to the sunroom and the porch, or just have that?
You mean the kind of just what they propose to do?
Well, that's at the beginning of the
You're gonna be
resolution.
doing that, right?
Yeah, that explains what, and it's also in the application and the referral. Is there something specific?
Because when you use the times, when you're reading the criteria of the variance, in essence, we're looking at variances, in the multiple points, so we reference it. When we use that term variance, we use variances throughout the resolution as we specify.
Well, you're saying, in other words, pair specify these variances are the front yard for the front porch, and these variances are for the.
Yeah, we can
For the
deal
garage.
with
You could do
it
that.
a little bit
Yeah, I-
independently, or find a way to do it, or you just refer to in the multiple.
I always write that in.
Okay.
So that the building inspector can look at it,
Good.
and it'll be there for the record.
So do we do a balancing of it?
Sure, do we need to? Is there anything that anybody wants to add in a balancing statement?
I would just do a summary if we're supposed to do it.
Well, I'm definitely gonna write it, and I'm gonna pass it out to everybody for commentary.
And with the 5 criteria, we found that 4 of them are,
I think we should put that in.
not,
Adverse.
adverse.
To the application.
and the one self-created, okay? But
And
that
there's
doesn't
no
stop us from
public, statement
Right.
against the request.
I wanna add, I guess if we're doing this, I will add that the lot coverage area variance is very small. And
Right.
Right,
And
we
it's
should
pretty-
address that.
it's pretty much the minimum, as you found out, that we have to give in order to
Allow 2-car garage.
allow the 2-car garage without sacrificing the porch.
That's good, because we should address that, because it is over 30%.
We've had people come in and ask for way bigger,
Yeah, 38%, 40%.
you know, garages and stuff like that. This is, very, they're being, humble's not the right word, but they're not being greedy here. And also I like it, what I like is that you step you're not aligning right there. Nice. They're not aligning that corner, which
Mhm.
everybody else would do. They just shoot it straight back.
And that's a visual benefit.
This is a big visual benefit because it makes the addition separate from the house. You get 2 different masses. Everybody combines them like that, and
That's just terrible.
it's horrible. What?
It's terrible when they do that.
Yeah, it's horrible. And so it's credit to everybody sitting here that they're doing that. You don't see that very often, so it's a good idea. Thank you.
And also that, the requested variances are, you know, within the general character of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, can,
Concerning setbacks and, you know, front yard setbacks, side yard. And, you know, porches on the front.
Okay, anything else to add to the balancing statement? Good.
Nope.
All right. Somebody want to make a motion? Or further discussion?
Let's see, further discussion.
Would anybody mind if I asked our member of the public who was late after the hearing is closed, if we would like to say anything?
Okay, you can just reopen it if you'd like.
Would you like to say something?
Just a quick comment. My name is Frank DeWolf. I live at 15 Stone, so I've been adjacent to that house for 25 years. I'd like to remark on its general, well-kept, actually, condition all the time. It's a beautiful art and parcel on the house. It's has a generous amount of room. I think more than a room for that, just visually. I think that property would only be enhanced by a porch on the front, which would make it even more consistent with the keeping of the block. Many other houses have porches or stoops on the front of the whole thing. I'm really excited about what it will look like and full support of the whole idea.
Okay, thank you. All right.
That's a good point. I mean, it would help bring the house as it exists more in character with the older, you know, front porch stoops.
And the visual line starting to cross and looking towards Maine. It's the only house with that much setback, and I think it would bring it into, a visual participation with the rest of the block. The house's design now is very, very simple. It can only be improved by an additional enhancement. Starting with a cluttered design, which is already compromised to one style or the other. It can only be improved. I'm really very, very excited about this whole thing.
Okay, thank you. So, any more discussion?
I make a motion to approve the requested variances as described by Donald McDonald, front yard, side yard, and area variances with the particulars already in the record.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank
So,
you, Frank.
so what happens next is you don't have a building permit yet, so you can't start work until you get that. And I don't know if you've been to the HDRB for this part yet, but if not, you'll have to do that. I will write this up and get it to Jeff, and at that point, he takes care of the building permit, so you'll have to wait for that. Bring the signs back, please.
Yes.
And that's about it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. We appreciate your time. Thanks for volunteering.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
What is,
you.
what is Studio V, what does VAA mean?
My youngest son, instead of saying ma or dad or dad, he used to say va. So it was just a random thing. Started this many years ago, so
Okay.
he's 18 now.
You live nearby? Stone Street?
Yeah, well, I'm actually across from Mayor's Park, so I
Oh,
go to
okay.
the train station every day. We saw
Thank
those
you.
butterfly bushes out front. Are they still there? You probably.
They're
still
still
there.
there, yeah. Phil's
I'm
taken
a
care of the
gardener,
yard
too, so
for many years.
I've taken care of the property for 20-plus years.
Yeah. Looks nice.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
The house was always intended to have a porch. My father just never got around to it.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, in the whole neighborhood, we just really added
Thank you.
it, fit it right in.
Great. Okay, good night.
Good night.
Nice evening.
So we have,
Thanks a lot.
That's right.
no, did you want to add
I
something?
just, you wanna be careful with your paper you're gonna put in the final file, so we should probably go through some of this stuff and decide.
Yeah, you can see, they were marked up.
Yeah, I'd like to grab everything and then I'll sort it out.
Okay.
Sort it out.
As they say.
Go ahead, you got minutes there.
So I don't think we can vote on these because two of us are here at the meeting when there were four, and you were absent, John, so let's just wait on that next time.
Yeah.
So motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Close the meeting.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you, Michael.
Aaron, for putting